I don't know, we call it like a bucket that like collects condensation. I mean, it was completely full, and then I knocked it over. water everywhere.
Classic Keith, ladies and gentlemen. Hey you, and welcome to another episode of the thatchapter podcast.
I didn't realize you started recording.
Oh, of course. I always like to record when you're not expecting it. You know, me and Keith, we haven't recorded a podcast together in, it's been a minute.
It has been a minute, yeah.
Been a minute for the folks at home. You know, they'll think, the listeners, our beloved listeners will be like, oh, you guys were just talking to each other the other day, when in reality, I was away for like the last 3 weeks in Boston.
Boston, boy.
Yeah, I was hanging around Boston, Salem, and Concord, and places, and New York actually for a bit too. So Keith, you know, it's good to be back. I missed doing the podcast. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it's great to get back into it.
Yeah, so you know, what's been going on with you? The folks at home want to know what have you been up to over the last? I hope we got some interesting stories. Oh,
okay.
Have you got a good one?
I don't. No,
the ghost. I like how you already knew what I was gonna ask.
I know. Yeah. So no, the ghost has been pretty quiet in the house. But yeah, personally though, we've been just getting excited for Christmas, ramping up, getting all that.
Suddenly, I'm not that actually interested in a podcast with you anymore. All right. Well, that's good. Yeah, everybody's getting excited for the holidays and for Crimbo. I have not. I've just been very busy. I haven't even had a second to think about it, and it's actually a holiday I don't really care about, in fairness. Now, Halloween, it's Halloween or nothing for me.
That's right. Well, I did see that you only took down the Halloween decorations last week, was it?
No, today.
Oh, today?
Yeah.
Okay. I seen them last week.
And today is mid-December for the listeners. Well, you know what? I like them. Yeah. So we left it up. Big news happened while I was in the States. Something we absolutely have to talk about because everybody's talking about it. The CEO of United Healthcare, you know, a generous man who was beloved by all.
Yeah.
I think the CEO, whatever his name was. Gunned down in cold blood by some fugitive monster. You know, this healthcare CEO just doing his, you know, he's just a regular guy, puts on his shoes, you know, he graciously denies people healthcare left, right, and center. Right. You know, you need cancer? Sorry, not to tape bell. Right. That's what he says. I mean, somebody's got to do it.
Right. Culling the population, I believe is what it's called.
I think it's culling. So, hey, listen, this Luigi kid, just no judge, no jury, straight execution. Just take mention. No, it was a fucking wild story. So, it unfolded. I was watching it on the news.
Were you in New York? The entire
story. Was I? No, I wasn't in New York when it happened. I was back in Boston, but
was it you?
No, it wasn't. But I won't say where I was. But I was watching it live, like them catching him, and because we just watched the news. I don't watch the news at home, but I watch a lot of it in New York because I guess or in America because it's sort of always on in the background in like bars and stuff like that.
Probably more interesting as well than what happens.
Well, it's a bit more dramatic, you know. But crazy story, and they got him. Unfortunately, that rat bastard in McDonald's.
Right.
By the way, I should say you shouldn't murder somebody. I feel like I just do need to put that out there. Murder is wrong. And what he did was wrong. But I mean, come on.
I don't know how he's going to get a fair trial. Like, everyone seems to know about it. So
yeah, it's very weird. I don't know. I think this is one of those cases as well where I do feel a bit conspiratorial about you know, there's a lot of conspiracies about was it really Luigi Mangione, I think his name is, because the pictures and his mugshots do look slightly. Have you been reading into this much? I've been like sort of consumed by it.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't been reading that much into it. I've just been like reading highlights.
Yeah. So that's one thing, but you know, was he really the guy? Is he a patsy? He probably was really the guy. But another thing that I find really the conspiracy about is like, how did they catch him? People say it was like he was identified by somebody in the McDonald's. Yeah. Which, I mean, but that's the thing. If you
maybe it was the CEO of McDonald's, Ronald McDonald.
Exactly. Shoot him next. Yeah. It's just a lot of weird stuff is coming out about the investigation and how they managed to track him. It almost feels like they tracked him somehow that they won't tell people, and then they're trying to like cover up how they got it. I don't know. The whole thing is there's something sketchy about the entire thing. Yeah. I definitely think there's something really, really weird about it.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see how the trial goes and what comes out of it.
Yeah.
Maybe nothing will happen. Who knows? But could be a good podcast.
It could be a good podcast. Hey, this is the Mike Zone. Stay tuned, folks, for the next episode of That Chapter Podcast. We're getting real about the conspiracies. So look forward to that, folks. You know. But that's it. So that was a pretty big piece of news. I'm sure a lot of the listeners have been following it. Oh, one other thing I want to mention before we get into today's story is if you are seeing in the podcast feed episodes missing and then they suddenly reappear where they weren't before, the podcast hosting platform that we used about 2 weeks ago just threw me up a load of processing errors for some past episodes. One is a listener story 6. It's not there, but I tried to then re-upload it and it gives me the same error and it posts it as if I posted it today. I don't know. So folks, just if you see podcast episodes just suddenly reappear, don't worry about it. It's just things acting like a bitch, basically.
Yeah, we're not fishing for more clicks.
No, but you should click them anyway and listen to them all the way through and click on all the ads and basically just do everything. But anyway, let's get into today's story. It's a good one. We recently used stories we've been talking about, hi-fi murders, serial killers, and such like that. But today we got a real spooky one.
We do.
A cryptid-esque story of Murder Most Foul. Foul with a W because it's an animal.
Nice.
Wait, is that? No, that's
Foul's a chicken. Or
well, maybe this is a chicken. Nobody actually knows.
Some sort of bird. Yeah.
Some sort of bird, but maybe this is a giant bird. Nobody actually knows whom the beast be.
Dare I say, the Mothman?
Ooh, he strikes again.
But probably not.
Well, you never know. Today we're covering the story of the beast of Gevaudan.
Gevaudan.
By the way, folks, I'm very excited for you to hear our French accents and our pronunciations. Keith helpfully put in little phonetic pronunciations beside all of the French words, which I may or may not ignore. I haven't decided yet.
I spent a lot of time putting in phonetics and then I went through it and they don't really help that much. The words are really hard.
So I might just rather pronounce these places and names in a way that sounds funny to me.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Let's see if we get on.
Okay, let's
all right.
And I do, before we jump into it, I just want to give a bit of a shout out to the Gevaudan tragedy, the disastrous campaign of a deported beast by Karl Hans Taki, which was an excellent book and a really good resource. So if you get a chance, I got it on Kindle for a couple of quid. It's really good.
Okay, great.
It's good. And it's not too long, which is always great.
Oh, hey, yes, I don't have to waste much time in it. Sounds great. I look forward to it. All right, thank God for that. All right, folks. So far on the That Chapter podcast, we've covered stories about ghosts, demons, vampires, witches, a lot of witches actually. Keith, I really hope you got Salem out of your freaking soul or whatever. I don't know.
Well, you say that, but where were you last week?
Yeah, I was in Salem. But yeah, no, I was looking at books and I was like, should I buy that for Keith? More books. I was like, no, I'm not, because then you won't.
Don't get him started.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not bringing that up again.
Good call.
But today we are diving into something completely different, and that is werewolves. Werewolves, not swearwolves. All right. Well, sort of werewolves. Today's story is about the beast of Gevaudan, a creature that defied identification, described as something between a young lion, a striped hyena, a massive wolf, a large dog, or even, dare I say, a wolf-dog hybrid. Honestly, its true identity is still a mystery to this very day. Whatever this cryptid beast was, it terrorized the former province of Gevaudan in south-central France for 3 horrifying years between 1764 and 1767. And when I say terrorized, I mean it. By the end of this 3-year nightmare, around 100 children, youths, and women had lost their lives, often killed in brutal attacks where their throats were quite literally torn out. The beast was reportedly killed multiple times during its reign of terror, but just like Jason from Friday the 13th, it just kept on coming back, each time seemingly more bloodthirsty, until finally the attacks stopped for good after 3 long years. And there's a French movie called The Brotherhood of the Wolf, if anybody has ever seen it, or if that rings a bell, and any of the listeners. It has, what's her face? Monica something, the really hot French actress who's in things. What's her name? Monica Bellucci. She's in it. So, lads, it's worth a watch for that at least. But I remember it being pretty decent, but I haven't watched it in about pretty 20 years. But I mean, if I remember her, it must be half decent.
The most memorable part.
Yes, exactly. So let's not waste any more time. Give this old tale a go.
Do it.
Our story today takes us to 1760s France, to the county of Gevaudan, a historical region in southern France that existed until the French Revolution. Afterwards, it became a part of the Luzere, that's Keith's department for sure, a department created a department created from the former county, covering roughly 5,000 square kilometers or over 3,000 square miles. The terrain of Gevaudan was wild and diverse, with mountain ranges reaching over 5,500 feet, alongside deep valleys, dramatic gorges, expansive plateaus, winding streams, and untamed forests. The rugged highlands and steep slopes made farming difficult, leaving the region sparsely populated. In the 1760s, fewer than 120,000 people lived there, scattered across hamlets nestled in valleys, perched on hills, or clinging to mountain slopes. Historical estimates suggest there were over 1,000 such settlements. The climate was as challenging as the landscape. Higher altitudes endured long, snowy winters with January temperatures near freezing and July averaging 13 to 18 Celsius. The Little Ice Age of 1765 brought about snowy springs, rainy summers, and a winter so bitter that the Rhone River near Lyon froze over. Life in Gevaudan largely revolved around livestock, with sheep and cattle grazing the region's grasslands. Milk was a dietary staple, and the task of tending flocks often fell to children and teenagers, typically young girls who spent long hours alone in the fields. This isolation left them vulnerable, turning them into easy prey for predators, perhaps even a tasty snack for the beast on the loose. Bonjour, mon cuisine de jour.
Goes well with the baguette.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's literally, I just imagined a giant wolf riding a bicycle with a beret on, baguette under one arm.
The striped jumper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, apart from the beast attacks, I guess like Gevaudan, it might sound like a charming place to live, and definitely when you look at photographs, it looks like a fairy tale place. But France in the 1760s, it was pretty grim. So the 7 Years' War, which was from 1756 to 1763, and it was a global conflict involving most of Europe's big players, and that had just ended, leaving France licking its wounds after losing to the British and Germany. So King Louis XV had also given up a really big chunk of France's overseas empire, including Canada, which threw the country into economic chaos and leaving people pretty fed up. But what's interesting though is that under normal circumstances, the beast and its victims might not have gotten as much attention. But with the king cracking down on political news to control the public opinion and protect his image after all those losses, newspapers, they had to look somewhere else for stories. So to keep readers hooked and subscriptions rolling in, they started focusing on everyday dramas in rural areas. The beast attacks were the perfect mix of mystery and horror to turn a local tragedy into a nationwide sensation. And because of this media frenzy, this 1760s countryside mystery left behind a significant number of records, which is pretty incredible for something that happened in these tiny isolated villages so long ago that we know a lot about it.
Yeah, which, as you said, in some small place in kind of in the middle of nowhere, it's pretty interesting. So, let's get to the beast first.
Let's do it. I guess we should give a bit of a trigger warning. Initially, when I started kind of looking into the story, I was like, yeah, it'd be fun. It gets really brutal.
Oh yeah, well yeah, if you're, it gets just violent, just from graphic descriptions of people being torn apart. So if that bothers you, there's your warning, I guess. All right. Yeah. So the first attack happened in April of 1764 in the parish of Saint-Flour, or Saint Flower, as I like to pronounce it, but Saint-Flour, I guess is how they would pronounce it, which means they use a lot of mops there. Very clean. Saint-Flour.
Very good.
Like
nice.
Thank you.
Good. Well done.
A young woman was tending her flock of cattle when the beast began stalking her. Her dogs, who were meant to help guard the cattle, bolted in fear as soon as they caught sight of the creature. Strangely, the beast didn't seem interested in her cattle. It was after herself. It lunged at the young woman, managing only to tear at her clothes. Amazingly, it was her cattle who came to her rescue. The young bulls in the herd formed a protective wall around her and began charging at the beast. After a tense struggle, they finally managed to drive it off. Thanks to this incredible escape, the shepherdess gives us the first chilling description of the creature. She said it was as big as a cow, with thick fur, long claws, a broad chest, a massive head, short little petite ear, and a baguette-like snout.
Amazing.
I'm not sure if she used those exact words, but you never know. Its tail was described as long and strangely thin, with a dark stripe running from its head to its tip. She described it as like a wolf, yet not a wolf, which is interesting. And the description is it says, a wolf as big as a cow. That's a pretty big wolf.
Right, yeah.
And wolves can get really big. Do you ever see a picture of a wolf standing next to a husky?
They're huge.
Wolves are huge.
Yeah,
I actually never realized how big a wolf was.
Yeah.
But this was even bigger. Or, it could be more proof that it's a werewolf, in my opinion. Full moon last night, you got neighbor Jean Baguette du Chocolat. He's out in the prowl now, turned into a werewolf.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it does sound like that. We'll get into it, but this story is bananas.
Yeah,
folks.
it gets wild.
Yeah. So the first eerie description of the cryptid beast would go on to match many reports in the years that followed. Unfortunately, not everyone was fortunate enough, though, to escape the beast, like our first person was. The first recorded fatality took place on June 30th, 1764, 2 months after the first sighting, in the small village of Sétienne-du-Lougdaret. 14-year-old Jean Boulet had been out tending cattle, but never made it home that evening. When her family went searching for her, they made a grim discovery. Her mutilated and mauled body was found the very next day. It was a horrifying tragedy, and just the beginning of a series of brutal attacks. The beast's assaults were vicious, often targeting young women and children, and throughout 1764, the reports grew more and more gruesome, with victims found with their throats torn out, heads partially devoured, and in some cases, decapitated.
And it was this shocking level of violence of these attacks which led to the stories being picked up by the media. So here's one extract from the Gazette de France from around this time. For 2 months, a fierce beast has appeared in the province, near the forests of Mercois and Langonneau, which is spreading alarm throughout the countryside. She has already attacked about 20 people, mainly children and particularly young girls. There are hardly any days that are not marked by new disasters. The fear it inspires prevents loggers from going into the forest, which makes wood very rare and very expensive. It is only in the last 8 days that we've been able to see this formidable animal up close. It is much taller than a wolf. Its lower front legs are armed with claws. It has reddish hair, a very large head, long and ending in the snout of a greyhound. The ears are small, straight like horns. The chest is broad and a little grey. The back striped with black, and an enormous mouth armed with teeth so sharp that it separated several heads from bodies like a razor could do. At a distance of 1 or 2 fathoms, so 1 fathom is about 6 foot, it stands on its 2 hind feet and lunges at its prey, which it always takes by the neck from behind or from the side.
Wow. That's a pretty interesting report as well from so long ago.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, scary shit. So, soon the hunt for the beast began. Now, the people of Gevaudan weren't just waiting for the beast to strike again. With the local authorities struggling to deal with the rising number of brutal attacks, they turned to the king for help. Louis XV, concerned about the growing panic fueled by the media, sent soldiers to join the hunt. A regiment of soldiers, along with local wolf hunters, were sent to the area, all under the command of Captain Jean-Baptiste Duhamel. This marked the shift from local efforts to a more organized attempt to catch or kill the beast. On October 8, near Asher, in the parish of Prunier, the head of a 20-year-old woman who had been mauled by the beast the day before was found. Later that same day, the beast attacked again near Le Pouzet, in the parish of Les Faz-Montervenu. Okay, seriously.
You're doing great.
France, I've had enough of you at this point. All right, okay, I've had enough of this stuff. This time going after a 15-year-old boy. However, the beast, this time, instead of going for the usual kill by piercing the boy's carotid artery, it clamped down on his neck, trying to crush him. The boy fought back with everything he had and somehow survived, but he suffered serious injuries, including a part of his scalp being torn off and deep claw marks on his chest. Then, later again that same day, near Chateau de la Baume, the beast went after a young herdsman guarding cattle. But the herd managed to chase off the attacker, which is weird that, it's like it doesn't go for the easy cows. It goes for the people, but the cows protect. Interesting.
Yeah, and we'll get into it a bit later with like theories and stuff, but that's one of the reasons why people didn't believe it was a wolf, because like there was wolves around the area, but they would go after, wolves would come in and take the livestock, where now they're coming in not interested in the livestock and they was going straight for the person for whatever reason.
Weird. Once again, like in our very first case, the herd, the shepherd or cattle herder, whatever, cowboy, I guess. I don't know if you call him a cowboy?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Okay.
A cowboy.
Yeah, le cowboy. Le cow, garçon. They fought off the beast, but then the beast, which I love the image of this, the beast then began stalking him and I hid behind a low stone wall near the forest, waiting for another chance to strike. And I like the idea of the beast is like peeking over. Are you gone yet? Can I kill you now?
You'll never see me.
Yeah, exactly. But then, hunters showed up, and when they did, the beast ran into the woods. The shooters got into position at the edge of the forest armed with muskets at the time, and the beast was flushed out. It tried to escape, but was shot from about 10 steps away and it fell. As it got up, a second shot hit it, and the beast fell once again. The hunters were thinking finally they have got it, but it got up and limped back into the forest. After being shot for a third time, it came out of the forest again. Zombie wolf.
Right.
A fourth shot hit it from around 50 steps away, and it collapsed once more, but again it managed to drag itself back into the woods. Just got the wind knocked out of me, I'm fine. It just shot 4 times.
I know, yeah.
Each time it got shot, it hit the deck, got up again, shot again, dragged itself, shot again, man, this is crazy.
This guy just kept on coming out. It was like, is it clear yet? Oh, no, not yet.
The hunters searched until dark, sure they would find it dead or dying the very next morning. The next day, by 4 a.m., 200 men surrounded the woods and the forest. They started searching, but the beast had already left. Later that day, 2 witnesses saw it hobbling around. Au revoir!
And this is really where things start to take a bit of a supernatural feel. The beast had been shot 4 times, as you said, but somehow still managed to escape. You'd think after all of that, it would be hiding out somewhere, badly injured, licking its wounds, but no. The next day, on October 10th, the beast struck again.
Damn.
This time attacking a 15-year-old boy about 12 kilometres from where it was last shot. Again, shot and hiking off for 12 kilometres.
Yeah, crazy.
So the boy, he was severely hurt with his forehead torn open and wounds on his right side. Luckily, 2 men were able to chase the beast off. But the beast wasn't done yet. Later that same day, about 5 kilometres southwest, so another 5 kilometres away, it attacked 2 brothers and their 10-year-old sister. The beast ambushed them and went straight for the girl, pinning her to the ground. But thankfully the brothers, they had lances and they bravely fought off the creature, forcing it to flee. The girl, she survived but had claw marks on her arm and her cheek had been bitten off.
Ooh, nasty.
Ouchies.
Yeah.
So the beast had failed to kill anyone that day, but on October 11th, so the next day, around 30 kilometres away, southwest of the previous attacks, the mutilated body of a young woman was found, her head separated from her body. Then, just a few days later, on October 14th, another victim of a 10-year-old boy was found beheaded with his chest torn open by the beast.
Damn, that's crazy. It's crazy how it can travel this. It's gone like 50 kilometers after being shot 4 times in the space of 2 or 3 days.
He's walked it off, literally.
Yeah. On October 28, 1764, around 10,000 men joined massive hunts that stretched all across Gevaudan. Despite their efforts, heavy snowfall at the end of October and into November slowed down the search. Unfortunately, the snow didn't seem to slow the beast, whose attacks became even more brutal. On November 25th, near Oman, the beast claimed yet another victim, 60-year-old widow Catherine Valley. She was leading her cow to water when the beast struck.
Well, you know what they say. You can lead your cow to water, but
you'll get eaten by the beast of Gevaudan. Yeah, classic saying. Catherine's body was found decapitated, a gruesome hallmark of the creature's growing savagery. And it's worth noting that severing a human head requires an incredible amount of force, far beyond what most predators in the region were capable of. This pattern became a grim signature of the beast. It often decapitated its victims and carried off the heads, which were sometimes discovered later. In Catherine's case, her skull was found cracked with enormous teeth marks. Shockingly, it had been stripped clean of flesh, almost as if it had been polished with a tool. Hoping to catch the beast in the act, Captain Jean-Baptiste Duhamel, who was leading the hunt, left Catherine's body where it had been found and stationed soldiers nearby to ambush the creature in case it came back to chow. But the beast did not come back. Duhamel struck to this ambush strategy, attempting it again after the following attacks. December 15th, a 40-year-old woman, Catherine Chastain, was found decapitated. 5 days later, a 12-year-old girl was discovered beheaded. In both cases, the beast never showed up to return to the body, he just wanted the head. By the end of 1764, the beast had taken 17 lives and injured 9 others in just 6 months, and its rampage showed no signs of slowing down.
Oh yeah, the beast, it wasn't stopping. It was literally only getting started. So on January 6th, 1765, it launched 3 attacks in just 2 hours across different areas. So first, the beast tried to snatch a small child, but luckily the father and the family dog, they fought back, managing to wrestle the child from the creature's massive jaws. Then an hour later, about a kilometre away, the second victim, they weren't as fortunate. A woman gathering herbs in her garden was jumped by the beast, which shredded her face and tore into her chest. Then, just an hour after that, 4 kilometres from the second attack, the beast struck again. This time, it mauled a 25-year-old woman, ripping chunks from her throat. Strangely, the flesh that it tore out, it was left uneaten and it was just left beside her body.
Weird.
Which is very strange. Like, why would the beast attack if it wasn't hunting for food?
Yeah.
So some speculate it may have been killing for sport, but there's another theory that it wasn't after the meat. It was after the blood.
Ooh, vampire werewolf. The worst kind of werewolf.
Right, a vampire werewolf hybrid feeding on its victims. That would be cool.
That would be cool.
But instead, the theory is it was taking the chance to get a warm drink during the freezing winter months.
Hot cocoa blood.
Right, exactly. It's full of I think it's like mostly water and salts. Anyway, so like the streams and rivers would have been icy or frozen solid, so making warm, fresh blood more appealing option when given the chance. And the theory, it does line up with the pattern of the attacks. So the beast beheaded significantly more victims during the winter months than in the warmer half of the year. So during winter, 32% of its victims were decapitated, compared to just 9% in summer. In fact, there was no decapitations happened in the warmest months, July through to September.
Weird. Interesting. All right. And basically that's how it went. The attacks kept coming, one brutal strike after another. It's impossible to cover every single one, but here are a few that just show, how much more frequent and savage they were becoming. On January 12th, 1765, the beast killed 15-year-old Jean Chateauneuf near the village of Les Maisons. The next day, 40 kilometers northwest, the body of 12-year-old Pierre Marché was found, 3/4 of his body devoured. 3 days later, on January 15th, a young woman named Catherine Boyer was attacked while working in the fields. Villagers heard her screams and rushed to help, driving the beast off before it could kill her. But it was too late. Catherine had suffered severe head injuries, including having her entire scalp torn off. Then, on January 22nd, 1765, 35-year-old Jean Tannevel was found decapitated, with her breasts and abdominal organs eaten. Her head was buried nearby in a field. These are just a few of the attacks from January 1765, and there were still 2 more years of terror to come. Locals were living in constant fear of this relentless beast. Some villagers even reported hearing its terrifying calls at night as it roamed in search of its next victim. The sound was described as a bone-chilling guttural bark mixed with raspy yelps and eerie, inhuman cries that made your skin crawl.
God, that must be terrifying.
Yeah.
You'd be like in a small village, like dangling off like the side of a mountain. You just hearing those screams.
Yeah.
But there was a clear pattern to the victims, with most being women and children, and the attacks on men, they were the exception. So this part of the story is my favorite because it's so stupid. So Captain Jean-Baptiste Dumal, he noticed the pattern too, and he decided to take action. So he ordered his infantry to get bonnets and skirts from the local village.
Wow, this is literally his plan. It's attacking women, so we'll just dress like women?
Pretty much, yeah. So they did it so they could disguise themselves as women and accompany the children into pastures in the attempt to lure the beast out. But then a number of civilians, they showed up, also dressed as women, claiming that they wanted to join the hunt and help. And Duhamel quickly had them removed. He was worried they might be mistaken for his men and, damage his soldiers' reputation.
Yeah, exactly. Only we can dress like women. You're not allowed to do it. You'll make us look stupid.
Exactly, yeah. So not only were the soldiers running around in women's clothing trying to catch the beast, but other men eager to join in also threw on their wives' dresses and wandered through the villages. Shockingly though, the beast didn't fall for the men's disguises, and it didn't work.
Yeah, damn, we tried on nothing and it doesn't work.
Well, they tried on something.
Yeah. On February 7th, Captain Jean-Baptiste Duhamel decided enough was enough and organized the biggest hunt for the beast yet. Across multiple villages, 20,000 men, including soldiers, hunters, and dogs, were mobilized for the effort. They managed to track the beast into a wooded area and even got a shot off, hitting it. The beast let out a cry of pain and fell to the ground, but once again, it managed to pull itself up and escape once more. You'll never catch me! Meanwhile, 15 men from the hunt decided, c'est la vie, and wandered off to the pub to get drunk instead. When Duhamel found out, he stormed into the pub, furious, smacked one of them with the flat side of his saber, and threw 4 of them in the lockup for insubordination. The beast, unfazed by the chaos, decided it was time for the hunted to once again become the hunter. On February 9th, it struck again, killing and decapitating a young girl named Marie-Jeanne Rousset. When her body was found discovered, the chest organs had been eaten, and her severed head was found with only the eyes still intact, which is...
horrifying.
Yeah, that's a horrifying image. Between mid-February and mid-March, the beast claimed 10 more lives.
So amidst the terror, there were a few incredible stories of people who faced the beast head on and were later honoured in France for their bravery, unlike the lads who skipped off to the pub that you mentioned.
That would be me.
Right? I know, that sounds great.
I do figure this out. I'm going for a drink.
He's beat out killing people. Like, no. I'm good, thanks. But one of the most remarkable tales is that of Jeanine Chastain, a woman of 6 who was pregnant with her 7th child at the time. So on March 13th, 1765, Jeanine and her children, they were out having breakfast in the garden when, out of nowhere, the beast leapt over the wall and clamped its jaws around the head of one of her younger children. Desperate to save her son, Jeanine jumped into action. She tried to pry him free, but couldn't. She was just pulling out a child, was just stuck in the beast. Determined, she climbed onto the beast's back and started pounding its head with a rock that she had in the garden. But even this didn't faze it.
It's like,
It's one of those cow gossons you're talking about. So in a final desperate move, Jeanine, she reached down and gave him the old reach around, grabbed the beast by the testicles and gave it a good old vicious twist.
Nice.
So the beast threw her off her back and leapt over the wall and disappeared into the woods, but with her son still in its jaws.
Ooh.
Thankfully, Janine's oldest son arrived moments later, returning from the fields with a pike and a herding dog. So he chased the beast and managed to drive it away, forcing it to drop the boy before vanishing further into the forest. Janine sustained injuries from the beast's claws, and tragically her youngest son succumbed to his wounds. But her courage, it didn't go unnoticed, and King Louis XV sent her 300 livres as a reward for her bravery, and this was the equivalent to around 7 months' wages, which I'm sure is not a lot of consolation for your child being mauled and dragged off into a forest.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not going to say no.
I'm still going to take it, obviously, yeah.
So, with Captain Jean-Baptiste Duhamel's efforts falling short, surprisingly just dressing like women didn't work.
Shocking,
believe that. It was time to bring in someone with a little more experience. To be fair though, Duhamel, he was doing more than most. Take the Bishop of Gevaudan, for example. His grand solution was to order all of the priests in his diocese to tell their congregations to pray and do penance for 40 hours over 3 consecutive Sundays. The reasoning? The beast was supposedly a scourge sent by God to punish humanity for its sins. The bishop was literally just sending thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, you never know.
Could work.
Could work.
Stranger things have happened.
Yes. So enter Jean Danval, a 62-year-old professional wolf hunter with a legendary reputation. He'd racked up a jaw-dropping 1,200 confirmed kills for little marks on his pantalons.
Wolf kills, by the way.
Wolf kills?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Yeah, well, okay. Now he's just killing innocent animals.
Right, yeah.
Come on, dude. Danval convinced the king that he was the man for the job, and even promised to bring the beast back as a trophy so it could be mounted. Impressed with Jean Danval's credentials, the king hired him without hesitation. On April 21st, 1765, he coordinated with 10,000 men from multiple villages for a large-scale hunt. Just 9 days later, on April 30th, he tried again with another 10,000 hunters, this time in harsh, snowy conditions. Both hunts ended the same way. The beast was tracked, shots were fired, but the creature always managed to slip away. Meanwhile, women and children continued to fall victim to its brutal attacks. Jean Danval did try some creative tactics. For example, when a victim's body was found, he would have it prepared with poison, hoping the beast would come back to finish its meal, but the beast never took the bait.
That's an awkward conversation to have with the family, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bit like, do you know the person knocks on your door, it's like, oh, we found your daughter. She's been killed. Can I have the body? Well.
Maybe come back later.
We're going to try something first.
Yeah, exactly. Give us a second. Things then came to a breaking point on May 24th when the beast went on a rampage. Over the course of just 1 day, it carried out 4 separate attacks in different locations, targeting victims between the ages of 10 and 20. Tragically, 3 of those victims were killed. It was becoming painfully clear that Danval wasn't the hero Gevaudan needed at all. By this point, King Louis XV decided it was time to bring out the big guns. He tasked Francois Antoine, his high-ranking royal gun bearer, which sounds cool as shit, with hunting down the beast. On June 23rd, 1765, Antoine arrived with his son, 14 shooters, including 8 members of the Royal Guard, and 5 hounds. Like Duhamel and Danival before him, Antoine organised massive hunts, calling on everyone in the area over the age of 14 to arm themselves with whatever they could find and join the effort. Antoine relentlessly tracked the trail of death and destruction left by the beast, always just one step behind. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months, with the brutal attacks showing no signs of stopping at all, almost as if the beast was mocking Antoine, the king's chosen saviour of Gevaudan. Finally, after over 3 months of pursuit, Antoine got word of a pack of wolves causing a lot of damage in a nearby wooded area. On September 18th, Antoine and his team confronted a large male wolf. Antoine aimed at the wolf, fired, and killed it on the spot. With that, Antoine declared the infamous beast of Gevaudan dead! News spread quickly, and the people of Gevaudan celebrated. Antoine commissioned a wooden sculpture of the beast, which he draped on its skin and brought back to present to King Louis XV at Versailles. Excitement ran high as members of the royal family, ministers, ambassadors, and other visitors gathered to see the creature that had terrorized the countryside. Unfortunately, the hype gave way to disappointment when they saw it was just a slightly larger sized wolf, far from the monstrous figure people had imagined. Despite the letdown, the matter, another job well done.
Pat on the back all around.
For the king and his court, the beast of Gevaudan was no longer a threat, and that was the end of the beast. Or was it?
Yeah, so the people of Gevaudan, they didn't get to breathe easy for long. Whispers and rumours began to circulate that the beast was back.
Oh.
So 2 months later, their worst fears were confirmed. 2 young shepherds, aged 14 and 6, were attacked. The older boy managed to fend off the creature with a lance, but the description of what attacked him matched the beast exactly.
Ooh la la.
And this wasn't an isolated incident. On December 21st, 1765, tragedy struck again. An 11-year-old girl was found decapitated while herding her family's sheep. Just 2 days later, on December 23rd, a 14-year-old girl was killed, or at least that's what people assumed. Only her arms were found.
Ooh, damn, dude.
When I was reading about this, they didn't have like a proper burial for her because the priest's like, it's just arms.
Yeah.
Which is a bit rude.
That is, I would murder.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So by 1766, the attacks had significantly declined, but they hadn't stopped entirely. Reports suggested a dozen or more children were killed that year.
Damn.
Records from this time are hazy for 2 reasons. First, as Mike pointed out, the king considered the matter officially resolved, so the royal court had little interest in further reports. Second, wolf attacks were tragically common in the area, and distinguishing between beast attacks and ordinary wolf killings often depended on who was telling the story. The very last confirmed attack attributed to the beast occurred on June 17th, 1767. By the end of his reign of terror, an estimated 210 attacks had taken place, with 113 resulting in deaths. So what became of the beast remains a mystery. Some say it finally succumbed to a hunter's bullet. Others believe it vanished back into the wild, never to be seen again. But one thing is for certain, the legend of the beast of Gevaudan has never truly died.
And legends never die. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a pretty crazy story. And it's like, it's, this real dramatic thing. People, eaten by this giant werewolf type creature. And then it just sort of
went away.
Just sort of ends.
Yeah,
it's like, all right.
Yeah.
There's no like big dramatic battle or a hunter.
Yeah.
Some brave hunter goes out there and finishes the job and takes the beast's head, Witcher style. So it's like, no, it just kind of like fecked off. And
maybe it's lying dormant somewhere, waiting for its moment to come back. Who knows?
That would be cool. So what the heck though was it? That is the one thing nobody knows, really to this day. There are plenty of theories, but let's be real. Some of them can probably be tossed out right away. Like the idea that a human serial killer wearing a wolf's skin was behind the attacks, which is very creepy. Likely, probably not. Then there's the theory that the beast was a werewolf or some kind of a cryptid, maybe even a prehistoric creature like a bear dog or a dire wolf. Yeah, probably not true either, but can't rule them out. That's true, but very highly unlikely that one would still be alive even, 300 years ago. One of the more popular explanations is that the beast was just a really big wolf who possibly got a taste for human flesh. After the 7 Years' War, which we mentioned at the beginning, we came across a lot of corpses, battle corpses and stuff. Even though few battles, though, were actually fought in France themselves, and none of the battles were fought in southern France at all.
And he also, the beast, he never went after dead prey. He always went after live prey. They were trying. They left out so many bodies.
Right, they kept trying to ambush it, but he never went back.
Had no interest. So, so I don't know how he would have got the taste for it if he never went after corpses from battles, but yeah.
Fair point. The reason there is so much weight, though, behind this theory is because wolves were simply everywhere in the region back then, and attacks weren't uncommon. It could have been a weird mutant wolf or something aberration. For example, in 1765, which is the same time as the Beast of Gevaudan, there was the Wolf of Soissons, a place northeast of Paris, where just over the course of just 2 days, it attacked 18 people, killing 4. And it was eventually tracked and killed with a pitchfork. Or something, so a little bit different from our beasts, but wolf attacks back in this day in France were very common.
They were seen as pests. Dangerous pests.
Yeah, exactly. But again, it's this still doesn't ring that much like a wolf, or if it was a wolf, it was a very freaking weird one. Some estimates suggest that wolves were responsible for around 9,000 attacks on people in France between the 17th and 19th centuries, with many attributed to rabid animals, rabid wolves. But the rabid wolf theory doesn't quite line up. The beast attacked way too often for it to just be one rabid wolf, and animals with rabies don't live very long, and this thing was alive for, more than 3 years plus, as we can assume it grew up, didn't just magically appear.
Yeah, I think when an animal goes rabid, I think it's 2 weeks.
Right, and it's out. Yeah. Plus, none of these surviving victims showed signs of rabies, so, therefore, they wouldn't have been infected. And here's one other thing. If wolf attacks were so common, you'd think people in the area would know exactly what a wolf looked like. So, why was there so much confusion about how to describe this creature? As the very first people to be attacked by the Beast of Gevaudan said it was like a wolf, but not a wolf.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So she knew what wolf was like. She's like, it's like one, but it's not one.
It's definitely not one.
It's like saying, a horse and a zebra. It's like a horse, but it's not a horse.
Yeah, exactly.
It's something else. So despite this, I will say it's possible the beast was a rabies-free lone wolf, one that was hell-bent on hunting humans instead of the easier prey they were trying to protect. But here's another theory, I think, which makes a lot more sense, and it's pretty compelling. Some believe that the beast was an exotic cat, most likely a lion, that escaped while being transported to an exhibition or to a noble's estate. Back then, wealthy families often kept exotic animals to impress their guests. Sure, it's even possible that a lion was on its way to our very own King Louis XV's royal menagerie at Versailles. The menagerie, which was originally built by his grandfather, was home to all kinds of exotic creatures, including lions. So maybe it was some kind of exotic creature like that, a lion or a leopard or whatever.
My money's definitely on this theory, and there's a few things to back it up. So, for example, Captain Jean-Baptiste Duhamel, he gave the description of the beast when he first witnessed it. So this is what he said. This animal has the size of a 1-year-old bull. Its paws are as strong as those of a bear, with 6 claws on each that are as long as fingers. The mouth is extraordinarily big. The chest is as strong as that of a horse. The body is as long as that of a leopard. The tail is as thick as an arm and at least 4 feet long. The hair on its head is blackish, the eyes are as big as those of a calf, and they sparkle. I like that part. Is it kind of he's starting to fall in love with it?
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna run murdering with beautiful eyes, though.
Oh my god, the eyes. So the ears are short as those of a wolf and are upright. The fur on its belly is whitish. The fur on its body is red with a black stripe with the width of 4 fingers from the neck to the base of its tail. The animal is a monster whose father is a lion. It remains open what its mother is. So he actually says the beast looks like a lion. But, that's the thing. People back then, they knew what a lion looked like. So why didn't they connect the dots?
Yeah, I mean, the belly is whitish, the fur on the body is red with a blackish stripe. It sounds like a tiger.
Exactly, right, yeah. So, it's possible that the image of a lion that people were familiar with was, the ones with, with a big hairy mane, which this creature definitely lacked. It was in none of the descriptions beforehand. But it's possible, though, that the reason it didn't have a big mane was either because it was a large lioness, or it was a young lion who hadn't come into full maturity yet, so it hadn't got its mane. In addition, it's not just how the animal looked, but also its behaviour. So the way that it hunted and killed suggests the behaviour of a large cat. So the beast was an ambush hunter who seized prey by the neck, and it could decapitate a victim by using its powerful jaws, again, very similar to a cat. Also, in 1765, there was an incident in which an 18-year-old who was being chased by the beast managed to escape by simply jumping onto a cart. Now keep in mind, this was a creature that one witness saw leap 28 feet, so 9 meters. So why would jumping onto a cart suddenly stop it in its tracks? Well, maybe the beast had some bad memories associated with carts, like perhaps when it was trapped in one when it was being transported to an exhibition.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. And went,
Thank you. Not falling for that again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, there's been, so many stories of man-eating tigers. There's this guy who was like in the late 1800s, early 1900s, I think his name was Jim Corbett, and he wrote a book. He was like a hunter in India, and he has all these stories about like these man-eating tigers, man-eating leopards and lions and stuff that he would hunt. Like each chapter is about a different animal. It killed like hundreds of people in this town in India, and they'd eventually call for him, and he'd be tracking it and chasing it. Or, other similar accounts of the man-eating lions. The most famous example is the Tsavo man-eaters, a pair of lions in Kenya that killed, it was reported, like hundreds of workers who were working on a train line, the Kenya-Uganda Railway. This was between March and December of 1898. The two lines, their actions were later documented and turned into the 1996 film The Ghost and the Darkness, starring Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas, which I think it's a good film. It's a fun film. Even better Irish accent from Val Kilmer. I'm going to hunt the lion. Real good. Anyway,
I forgot about the accent.
Yeah, it's a good movie though. I think
it is a good movie. I liked it. Yeah.
In the 90s, there was this weird, like obsession with man-eating animals and stuff like that. I think in Jurassic Park maybe started off, but there's like a lot of animal attack movies, which I always enjoyed.
Yeah, and Jaws and stuff.
Yeah, well, Jaws was the 70s.
Yeah, but I seen it in the 90s.
Oh, fair enough. Good point. Yeah, it's a 90s movie. Yeah. So in the end, though, this 260-year-old mystery will likely remain unsolved, and we'll probably never know for sure what the beast of Gevaudan really ever was. Whether it was a wolf, a lion, a tiger, or even a werewolf, it's up to you, dear listener, to decide. And I think we are not ruling out the werewolf.
No, I like that too.
And certainly not ruling out Mothman.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Never rule out the Mothman.
Yeah. Now, there's no descriptions of wings, but maybe he hadn't grew them yet. Who knows?
Yeah, he has 300 years to grow. All right, folks. Thank you so much for listening to this whole episode of the That Chapter podcast. We put out new episodes every single Monday, so please give it a go. And folks, thanks for listening. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to Keith. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to us prattle on about whatever subject we're talking about today.
Yeah, whatever we're interested in.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. Talk to you soon. Please take care of each other and yourselves.
And I'll see you.
All right. Bye, guys. Thanks.
Happy Christmas. It's Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Chrysler.